Hello everybody and welcome back to Employment with Amy Weekly Employment Law and HR Update. I hope you've all had a really good week. Are you all ready for the changes in April? If not, let's talk about them. First of all, we're going to get started with our update on the Employment Rights Bill. So the Employment Rights Bill passed its second reading in the House of Lords on March 20. So the Employment Rights Bill passed its second reading in the House of Lords on the 27th of March 2025. What happens now is the bill will move to the committee stage on April 29, 2025. If you don't know what the committee stage is, I will explain it briefly. And I'll also put a link down at number 1 in the description box if you want to find out more in full. So the committee stage involves detailed line-by-line examination of the separate parts, the clauses and the schedules of a bill. They start right from the front of the bill, members work right through to the end. Every clause of the bill has to be agreed to and votes on the amendments can take place. All suggested amendments have to be considered if a member wishes, and members can discuss an issue for as long as they want. The government cannot restrict the subjects under discussion or impose a time limit. This is a key point of difference with the procedure in the House of Commons. Like I said, if you want to know more information about the committee stage at the House of Lords, I've put a link down below at number 1. Now let's talk about upcoming employment law changes. So this video goes out on the 1st of April 2025 and marks the start to many employment law changes happening in April. I've discussed these in my last 2 videos in detail and I will link those in the description and put a brief summary. But today on the 1st of April we got changes to national minimum wage and living wage. As always in April, I'll put a link down below to the rates at number 2. Then from the 6th of April we've got Neonatal Care Leave and Pay Act coming in, providing up to 12 weeks of paid leave for parents of babies requiring neonatal care. The leave must be taken within 68 weeks of birth. In addition to existing parental entitlements, employers should have a written policy for their employees and managers. If you don't have one yet, you can purchase a neonatal care leave and pay policy on my website www.employmentwithamy.co.uk. I've also published a video explaining this act and I'll put the link to that in the description at number 3. So also from the 6th of April, employer national insurance contribution rates changing and the threshold changing, statutory pay increases, sick pay, maternity, paternity, adoption, shared parental pay. Like I said, I've put the summary in the description box below. Now let's move on to tribunal news. This is going to be the bulk of the video. Just to note, these are recent cases that are popular in discussion at the moment. They are not cases that have happened in the last week, although they are recent. First of all, we've got a case regarding an employee being unfairly dismissed after being found working a second job whilst on sick leave and being paid half pay from their main employer. So here's a main summary of what happened. The claimant, Mr. Weston, had worked for Royal Mail for 16 years. In 2022, he injured his hip at work and went on sick leave. While recovering, he started doing shifts as a taxi driver, something he'd done before and his managers already knew about. There was no policy saying that he couldn't work a second job unless he was a driver, which he wasn't. And in June 2023, 2 managers, including one who he'd previously accused of discrimination, spotted him taxiing while still signed off sick and receiving half pay. Days later, Royal Mail launched an investigation led by that same manager. The claimant was dismissed for dishonesty, being aggressive during a call, and being absent without good reason. But at the tribunal, Royal Mail got called out. They assumed that the claimant's sick note meant that he couldn't do any work, but they never checked with his GP or occupational health. The tribunal found that the investigation was biased from the start. Weston was never properly told what he was being accused of. However, Weston wasn't totally off the hook. He worked during hours that he should have been doing Royal Mail shifts, got paid sick leave at the same time, and never asked his doctor if taxiing was okay. So while the tribunal ruled he was unfairly dismissed, they slashed his payout because of his own actions. His final award, just £3,010. Next, we've got an employee who was awarded just over £25,000 for being contacted whilst on sick leave. Another case which highlights, yes, potentially contact during sick leave may constitute harassment where the employee has a disability under the Equality Act 2010. But as always, it depends on the facts. So let's get into it. So this one involves HMRC. An employee requested that contact was limited to essentials and by email only. She'd been working at the HMRC Croydon office. During her time there, the claimant reported repeated instances of harassment and racial discrimination from colleagues and managers. According to the tribunal, HMRC made her continued transfer contingent on dropping a previous discrimination claim. The tribunal found this to have violated her dignity and ruled that it was objectively reasonable for her to have experienced it that way. So that's bad enough. But then we move on. She told her previous manager that she would not like a birthday card sent to her from the team on her birthday and to remove her details from the birthday list, to which her manager agreed. However, whilst on sick leave, just to mention here, the claimant did have a disability under the Equality Act. So while she was on sick leave under a new manager who had not been made aware of her request not to have a birthday card, she was contacted by her new line manager on 11 occasions over a 3-week period by phone, email and was sent a birthday card when she was off sick. Some of the calls were to ask for fit notes and regarding the recommendations made in her occupational health report. The tribunal stated that HMRC's conduct in repeatedly contacting the claimant during the early part of her sickness absence was unwanted. The claimant had specifically asked for correspondence to be kept to a minimum and to be by email only. The tribunal stated, "It is in our judgment impossible to separate the treatment, continuing to contact the claimant repeatedly despite being asked not to, from the fact that the claimant was absent for a reason which was linked to her disability." HMRC defended themselves, arguing they had a duty of care to check on the employee's welfare, but the tribunal expressed HMRC's duty of care would, on the face of it, be more effectively observed by complying with her expressed wishes. And finally, we've got a case involving Jeremy Clarkson, although not personally involved in the case. So a female marketing manager succeeded at the employment tribunal after experiencing workplace harassment linked to a colleague's comments about Jeremy Clarkson's controversial remarks on Meghan Markle. The claimant raised a complaint after a sales director said that he saw nothing wrong with Clarkson's 2022 column, which stated that he wanted to see Meghan Markle paraded naked through the streets in a scene likened to Game of Thrones. So the claimant described Clarkson's remarks as sexist and dreadful. The tribunal also found that she had been subjected to further harassment by a managing director who referred to her as a witch who would be stirring the cauldron and once told her, "Don't spend too much, you're not shopping for a dress." The claimant was later dismissed from her role after a male colleague accused her of being a man-hater following a debate about the Roe against Wade ruling in the US, during which she made a comment about men undergoing vasectomies. The tribunal upheld her claim, finding that she'd been harassed and unfairly treated. She is now in line for compensation. So that's all from me this week. If you enjoyed it, hit the like, hit the notification to be alerted when I post, and don't forget to subscribe. Have a great week, everybody, and I will see you soon. Bye.